And welcome to another Colin Crandall interview. This is for MMA from London to LA, as well as a special for United Force Combat. We are so excited to have this next guest on the show, a man I've spoken with a few times in the past, and he is a former championship kickboxer, MMA fighter, probably the most liked president of a combat sports organization. Now the man is the president of the PFL. They've now acquired Bellator, so I'm going to say PFL and Bellator president, Mr. Sugar Ray Sefo. Welcome to the show, Ray. How are you doing, my friend?
Thank you for having me. But yeah, no, at the moment, super excited. Next week, I head off to Saudi Arabia for the first show of the year. And it's kicking off in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, the champions versus champion, PFL champs versus Bellator champs. I mean, the card is stacked, and I'm so excited for it.
Man, I can't wait for that too. And it's funny because as years go by, as you know, so many fight fans say, why can't this organization fight that organization's champs? And you never see it year after year after year after year, and you never see it. And so this is really a great opportunity for that. And you're going to Saudi Arabia. Is it going to be governed by the same guys that have been doing those big boxing matches? You got the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, and then Turkey, Al Sheikh.
Yes. They're all part of of what's happening over there.
Man, they're making it big time. I mean, they are really doing some amazing events out of nowhere in Saudi Arabia, right? Who knew that was going to happen?
I was there. The first time there was probably October, I think it was last year. And we got to see these amazing things that these massive cities that they're building, like half an hour away from Riyadh. And so what's happening now is part of all that evolution, if you will.
Absolutely. It's definitely becoming a mecca of combat sports. And is this going to be the first MMA event over there? I think it might be, huh?
That is correct. Well, they have amateur MMA, but this is the first time they've actually had a big show in terms of MMA over there, and having champions compete against each other.
Fantastic. And this is going to be the first event, PFL against Bellator. And I'm really excited about this. I didn't know that we were going to get that event first. I know that some people are thinking, well, you guys will run a few shows and then they'll run a few shows, and maybe summertime you're going to have the champions versus champions. But I love that you're doing that right away. And I wasn't sure if that information was out yet. If it is, forgive me. It's been a crazy year. Last year I lost my wife in September. It was really, yeah. Thank you. It's really been insane trying to keep it going since then. But MMA and combat sports is my passion, and being credentialed media with all organizations, I'm always wanting to stay involved in it. And I know from heaven she's pushing me forward. So, but let me ask you: do you have the list? And I hate to put you on the spot, of the matchups that we're looking for with the champion versus champion in Saudi Arabia, or some of them come to mind at least? Maybe the higher up on the card.
I'm trying to think. I'm not sure if the actual card is being announced. I would have
might
to
not be.
check.
It might not be, because I don't think I've seen it.
But I'll give you a freebie. The main event is going to be Renan Ferreira versus Ryan Bader, which is
Love that. And that would be then at heavyweight or light heavyweight, do you know?
Heavyweight.
Fantastic.
So PFL champion last year, won $1 million, made over $1 million throughout the season. And Ryan Bader is the heavyweight champ. So that's the headliner.
I like that. Now, let me ask you, now you guys own Bellator, so everyone's family, everyone's part of your team, whether one wins or the other wins, it's your guys' family. Do you have any sort of an elite? Do you hope the Bellator guys don't win, or that the PFL guys win every fight? Or I don't know, I don't want to put you in a bad position to say, but what do you think? What's your feeling on that?
No, my feeling is that, now that it's, even though Bellator were still operating as Bellator, PFL is operating as PFL, but it's under the PFL umbrella. And so all these guys become family and part of the team. And so, competition is competition, and uh, in my many years, 13 years in K1, I competed against the likes of Peter Edge, Jerome Lebana, Ernesto Hus, and the list goes on. You know what I mean? Sam Greco, Musashi. So we would fight each other at least 3-4 times throughout the years, because we were all under the same umbrella. And so this is going to be pretty much the same with Bellator and PFL. It's under the PFL umbrella, but it's pretty much under, like I said, it's under one umbrella.
Absolutely. And it's
like, hey, listen, maybe the best man win.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about that. Say that. What's that again? I didn't hear you.
and the girls as well.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Man. There's some just amazing matchups. And let me ask you, the weight classes, I believe Bellator only had 145 at the highest for the women. You've had 155. I would imagine you're going to keep 55, or are you going to be abandoning that?
No, so we have 145. So 2023 was the first year that we actually dropped the 155, and the 145 division was added.
Oh, okay. So you haven't had 155 for a little while.
Correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know I've been watching the events, but sometimes I'm so tired at the end of a workday that my eyes are, squinting to try to see what I'm seeing. And I didn't notice that. Let me ask you about this, and then we'll definitely get back on to more about PFL and Bellator. But I have to get your opinion on this. I know, Kayla used to fight for you guys, and now she's going over to fight at UFC at 135. Right. I mean, I have a feeling, maybe I'm wrong, that you and me competing in an event at 175 pounds is almost as likely as Kayla fighting at 135 pounds. I don't know. Am I wrong? Or I'm not asking you to throw shade, but what do you think?
Here's the thing about Kayla. She's a complete professional. She is dedicated to what she does. She wants to be the best. She wants to leave a massive legacy. And with that, listen, if you look at her history, being the two-time champion gold medalist, you don't get that just because, you try, you get that because you work your butt off, and you day in, day out, 2-3 times a day. And she already has that mentality, like it's part of her DNA. And so 100% is going to be tough, but I guess the bonus part of this is that she doesn't have to cut to 135 every 9 weeks.
Right.
Right.
I mean?
Yeah. So listen, I have no doubt in my mind that Kayla's gonna make weight. Just because I've known her personally for so many years, and she's just that kind of person. Like, she works hard, and she's just so dedicated to being, one of the greats. And she's done so. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so going to 135, is it going to be easy? No. Can she do it? 100%.
Yeah, makes sense. What do you think about the girls that are left? Because now you've got Chris Cyborg, who is still very exciting, and then you got Pacheco, the champ, who had beat Kayla. Is that something that possibly could be in the works?
That is very possible.
Larissa and Chris.
Yes, I mean, Chris Cyborg is, she's one of the best to have done it for so many years. Clarissa has now, pretty much stamped her mark on that world stage. And so there's no doubt in my mind that fight's going to happen somewhere down the line.
And I guess it would be at 45 now, since there's no 55 anymore. So that would be at 45, which would be great for Chris. And that would be a barn burner. And that's 2 Brazilians. So right. And I don't know that Chris Cyborg, I think the last time Chris fought a Brazilian might have been when she lost to Amanda Nunes, getting caught. But I think I always wanted to see them run that back. I really think Chris would have been more prepared in that second fight. I think she was under a lot of pressure, and she wasn't feeling very good over at the UFC, and it just seemed like a perfect storm of negative things. And I really think that she would have made some adjustments in that second fight, and I think perhaps the powers that be didn't want to see any adjustments from Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because you win the first time doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the second. That being said, when you look at Amanda Nunes' reputation and record and what she's done in the sport, it's very hard to deny her. You know what I mean? And so, but like you said, that if that rematch had happened, there's a possibility for that outcome to change.
Yeah, very much so. A lot of great women's fights out there. So you are a New Zealander. Everyone loves you and cheers for you, and definitely a loyal New Zealander. And who is in the PFL or Bellator from New Zealand fighting for you?
Right now, I'm talking to a couple of fighters out of New Zealand. That they're not signed yet, but we're also looking to have PFL Oceania happen in Australia and New Zealand. That's in the works as we speak. And I want to say that'll probably kick off towards the later part of the year, like in the summer. But like I said, that's in the works right now as we speak. And so once that gets finalized, then we'll start signing all the fighters from down Australia and New Zealand that will be available to compete.
Fantastic. And let me ask you this. A lot of people are wondering, Bellator is going to have this fighting event where they're fighting PFL. Is that going to be it? Is it going to be absorbed at that point? Then we won't see any more Bellator fights, if you could answer.
We actually have 8 Bellator shows this year.
Wow.
And 10 PFL shows. I believe we have 6 in Europe and 2 here in the US. But yes, Bellator shows is going to continue as I think we're calling it now the Bellator Championship, where every card is going to be a champion to headline.
I love that. And most of them, it sounds like, then will be in Europe.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And then PFL, most of the fights will be here in the United States, although except for this one where you're going to Saudi Arabia, PFL will be in the United States exclusively, pretty much.
That is correct. Yes.
Very cool. And you guys are based in Florida, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you did maybe one card in California, but all the other cards that you've done in the United States have been in Florida. Is that right? And what's the future plan for PFL as far as where to hold events in the States?
So our head office is in New York. And our shows were, we've been to Atlantic City, New York, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, obviously Florida, here in Vegas. We've done a show in California. But yeah, no, I think this year the season will probably travel more.
Excellent. I'd love to see PFL on the West Coast in Vegas and California. I'm outside Los Angeles, and
right.
I've often wondered, because I know you're based in Vegas, and everyone heard, I think, for years that back when the UFC would be in hotels, they would kind of let their hotel partners know, we don't want any other organizations fighting here. I don't know, obviously another organization is not going to fight at the UFC Apex, but with T-Mobile and other locations there, do you find that they're pretty welcoming to the PFL? Is there any possibility we're going to see some PFL fights in Vegas and the West Coast, or is that something that would only be on a rare occasion because it's not easy to arrange?
That's going to happen a little bit more often this year. Like I said, I think the team is looking to travel the show this year. And most places that we've been to have been nothing but amazing. So there hasn't been any issue in regards to that. So far, so good.
Gotcha. And you're still training a lot. I think your last combat sports fight was, let me guess, was it maybe like 8 or 10 years ago?
Yes, that is correct. It has to be. I think my last fight was a kickboxing fight, which, 8 years ago, I think.
Does it seem like it was that long ago, or does it seem longer ago or shorter?
It seems like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And maybe because I'm still in the gym, I still spar 3 days a week. We have MMA sparring, obviously, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then boxing sparrings on Saturdays. So I'm still in there mixing it up with the young guns, and it's the only way to stay fit and stay healthy and stay, sane in everything that's moving, that's going on right now.
Yeah, it's really true, man. It keeps you young. I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with before my wife passed away, and then actually the pandemic halfway in, the school I was training closed down. I'm I think maybe like 2 or 3 years older than you, and I know my wife, one of the last things she was saying is, don't go back to jiu-jitsu training with these guys in their 20s and 30s. And I said, but I love it. I can do it. I'm good. I've got, a purple belt was like about maybe halfway to brown belt, but I don't know. I know you would probably say go for it, but you were a professional athlete and I was never a professional athlete. But my feeling is if I go back, I just better probably think about going half speed. What do you think?
No, I agree. You should go back because if especially nowadays, if you do something that you love and it keeps you keeps the heart rate beating, that's what you got to do. You know what I mean? There's just so much BS that's going on in the world right now that the best you can do. I mean, if you have time to train, I say go and train. Obviously, you got to make sure that the training partners understands, what pace you want to go at, and you'll be.
I appreciate it. I think I'll do that, and I think I'm just going to be really back in the earlier days. I was prided myself on being able to hold out, being squashed, being choked, blocking chokes, do everything, and maybe being one of the last guys to tap out. I think if I go back, I'm going to be prepared to be one of the first guys to tap out. But I can still train and I can still have some fun. Yeah, that's what I think I'll do. Yeah, that's what it's about. I really look forward to that. So you're training out of Extreme Couture. I think you've been there for over a decade, haven't you?
Yeah, over a decade. I mean, I think I joined Extreme Couture, I think a month or two after it opened.
Oh, wow. How many of your guys with the PFL and now with Bellator are training at the gym there with you? Probably several.
Yeah, we have Sadabusi, who lives in Vegas now, trains out of Extreme. Elena Klitschnik trains out of Extreme. We have Johnny Eplin, who comes in from time to time and trains with us. Who else? Alex. I forget Alex's last name now. But yeah, he trains with us as well. So there's quite a few, of our Bellator PFL guys that trains out of Extreme Couture.
Absolutely.
Kai Kamaka.
Kai Kamaka.
Yeah, he's out of Kennedy, Jeremy Kennedy. Who else? Matt Purnell. So yeah, there's quite a few of the, of our roster that actually trains out of Extreme Couture.
Absolutely good to hear. Now, here's an interesting question. Do you have a policy if they're there to train and then they see you and then they say, okay, can we now talk business? What about this? What about that? Can you get me on this? Do you have a policy? Do you say you're not going to talk business in the gym when you're training, or are you open to that if those guys want to do that?
What I tell the guys is, they can ask me any questions with us to do with mindset, attitude, my thoughts on it, because they'll ask me advice about a certain fighter, a distance and that. I'm like, listen, you guys are more than welcome to ask what my thoughts are, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to discuss opponents or this or that until it gets finalized through with me and the team.
Right.
And then you will be able to get the name of your opponent and so on and so on. So no, they're very aware of that, and the guys are pretty good about it too.
That's good. No contract negotiations while you're there wearing sweats, sweating and fighting, right? That would be a drag. But man, I'll tell you, I'm really excited about the organization, man, and I really feel that this is going to put PFL with Bellator into position to be a major player. You guys have got the backing, you guys got money, and I know you guys have been doing good shows on Thursday. Bellator's been doing shows on Fridays. Are you going to keep on doing shows on those particular days, or are you going to start doing some weekends? What are you looking at?
No, that's correct. That's working. It has to be working, and so we're going to continue to do that.
Any plans on entering the pay-per-view market?
The show on the first show, the show on the 24th, champion versus champion, that is a pay-per-view card. Well, yeah, I said earlier, we have 8 Bellator shows, 10 PFL, and we have 2 pay-per-view cards planned right now. So the first card is of the year, champion versus champion, February 24th, which is live out of Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. That is a pay-per-view card.
Excellent. Now, it's probably impossible to make all of those champion versus champion purses $1 million. At least I don't think it's possible, or is it? Probably not.
Yeah, we did that. I mean, obviously, those matchups are a little bit different.
Yeah.
And there's a different negotiations in that. But in terms of the PFL season, that is $1 million season, of course, on top of what they make throughout the regular season. So most of our champions, when the year's said and done and they've won that championship, they've probably walked away with $1.2 million for the season.
Very cool, man. Very, very good money. And the PFL will keep having the $1 million prizes and keep having the tournaments. That's not going to change, right?
No, that's not going to change. Yes.
And then Bellator will kind of continue with the format they had of individual fights. But I would guess that you can facilitate movement between the fighters. I contract wise, I would imagine something would have to be done. But being that you guys are the parent company now, if you find a guy in Bellator who wants to be in the PFL tournament, that can certainly be arranged, right?
That is 100% correct.
Okay, that's going to be great. I just hope that not every fighter wants to be, because then who's going to fight? You'll have to bring me to fight Bellator. That would be terrible. What am I saying? But anyway,
how many actually wants to stay on that side as well. So, but yes, there is quite a few that will be making that transition.
Fantastic. Well, I won't keep you too much longer, Ray, but let me ask you, I think you're going to have a PFL Oceania, and that will be fighting in New Zealand. Is that correct?
I think we're kicking off Australia first. Yeah, but then we'll slowly work our way into New Zealand. Yes.
Absolutely. And there's some great fighters there. Speaking of which, we got Alex Volkanovski fighting for a different organization tomorrow. Let me ask you, right, since you were a fighter for many years, I think your combat sports career probably covered about 20 years, something like that?
Yeah, 25, I think.
That's amazing. So you have Alex Volkanovski. Even though he lost the decision to Islam, many of us felt that he won that decision. It was a very close fight, that first fight, right? He takes the ill-advised fight on 10 days' notice, going back up one weight class, and you can't blame him. People need a paycheck. He's got kids. I'm not saying he desperately needed it, but he's also a guy who just would fight anyone at any time. Didn't work out. He got caught with a head kick. For you as a longtime kickboxer, you probably figured if a guy's 5-6 inches shorter than you, what better to do than to throw a kick? But how many kicks has Islam Makhachev been throwing at someone's head, except for that one? None. So Volk got caught. When someone loses like that, and it wasn't a sustained beating, he just got caught, can he be going into this fight as if that didn't happen? Can he be the exact same Alex Volkanovski with the confidence of a champion, feeling no one's got the best of me for years and I'm this good? Or does that have to throw you off a bit, having that happen, would you say?
Knowing Alexander, the type of warrior he is, he's going to look at it. He's not going to look at what happened in the last fight, because that was a different division. Again, he took it in the last, short notice. Yeah. That being said, he's such a champion and he's such an athlete that when he goes into defending his bout at his weight class, he's still going to have that champion mentality, champion attitude, champion mindset. And so I have no doubt in my mind he'll be the exact same 145 champion that he has been. I think it's at the end of the day, we're going to hear it still for me to, and I got nothing but love for Volk. He's just a great guy, great family man, amazing story. And the fact that, listen, it was unfortunate he got caught, but I actually trained Islam for a little bit here in Vegas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he and his coach, Javi Mendes,
Yes.
came, and we haven't seen the best of Islam yet. That's the honest truth. That guy, when he flows on the pass, he flows like a kickboxer. But because his wrestling is so dominant, that that's where he goes to. But if that guy was to flow like a kickboxer and make his wrestling a second part of his game, there's no doubt in my mind that he'll be able to stand with anybody. He's good.
That's good to know. Yeah, I spoke with Coach Javier about 3 hours ago, earlier today, interestingly enough. And it's interesting because Islam is looking at the winner of Charles Oliveira and Arman Sarukian. And I was talking to some friends of mine, really good Armenian guys here out of LA. I trained jiu-jitsu with several, and they're really excited about this kid Sarukian. And Sarukian just came off that great win over Beneil Dariush, and I think it was his first UFC fight they put him against Islam, when Islam was like 27 and Sarukian was 22 and really green, and Sarukian hung in there. Now Sarukian looks like he's a better striker, really strong kid. How do you think the matchup with him, Sarukian, and Charles Oliveira goes? And B, if Sarukian gets by Oliveira, do you think he has a chance of beating Islam? I know you are very high on Islam, but what do you think about both of those matchups?
Well, that's the thing about this game, is that when you compete at that level, it only takes one punch, one hit. You know what I mean? And the game can change. Listen, Oliveira can come out like we've seen. He can come out and just look the most incredible Charles Oliveira ever. But then he could come out and be a little bit flat. And so it just depends on which Islam faces him, which Oliveira faces him. But when you look at those three guys, I think the odds would be still 50-50. Okay, you can look at Islam being probably the favorite just because he's the champion, and rightful so, because he's so skilled and so good at what he does. But we've seen it in the game. Anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarukian is really young, and he's going to have a battle with Charles. Right. And if he fights Islam again, I know it's going to be a tough battle. And but Islam is amazing. And Volk at 145, at 155, Volk is really kind of a smaller guy, and but he's so thick. I know he played rugby over there in Australia at 212 pounds, I think it was, or something.
Like when I first heard that, I was like, no way. But yeah,
unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah, we saw pictures. Someone posted a picture of him on social media from like 15 years ago or something. They said, "Who is this?" And they said, "Is it Volk's big brother or something?" I said, "No, that's Volk, 216 pounds or something." But he's amazing. Robert Whitaker has come back, and Robert Whitaker has jumped in and started to train over at Kings with under Rafael Cordero. Beneil Dariush is there, Marvin Vittori, Giga Chikadze, a lot of really good guys. Coach Cordero's a great fighter, a great coach, and a tremendous coach for these great fighters. I feel like before that, it almost seems like Rob was training with a bunch of his mates in Australia that no one had really heard of. And so in this situation, it looks like he's coming down and really getting upgraded. He already looks really jacked and really strong. Do you think that could kind of get him back on the right track? Because he's had some tough fights, had a tough outing against Dricus, where he just looked a bit small and a bit flat. And but I've always liked Rob, and he seems like an amazing guy. Do you think this is going to help him? Do you think how do you think he does against Paulo Costa, the Brazilian?
100%. I mean, I didn't know that he was training with Rafael Cordero. I mean, Rafael Cordero is one of the best coaches out there. Very knowledgeable, knows the game, and one of the best spots in California. And so, knowing that he's there, yeah, that's gonna definitely have a added bonus to his game, because Some of his guys have also come and trained with us here in Vegas, and yeah, no, they're all very talented guys. They're all very skilled. But yeah, I think making that move is definitely, we're going to see a little bit of different of something special from Robert. And you know, again, that fight's 50-50 in my opinion. And so may the best man win. But yeah, to answer your question, I think Cordero is one of the best coaches out there, and him and Robert making that change, that's definitely going to benefit him in the long run, I think.
Absolutely. I saw that great footage a couple years ago where Coach Hoffeld training with Mike Tyson. That was amazing. I think Coach said his hands and his shoulders, I think, needed surgery after he was holding. I'd like to hold the pads for Mike Tyson. You could probably do it, but those of us mere mortals probably wouldn't be that much fun. You know, but yeah, and then speaking about Rob, you got Rob Wilkinson, the Australian over there in the PFL. I'm excited to see him again. I spoke with him about a year and a half ago. Really good guy. And then you're in the corner a lot because you got Coach Eric Nixick, and you're there, and just a great team. And I've seen you in the corner helping a lot of people. Do you have anyone next up from Extreme Couture for a big fight with either you guys or the UFC or one or anything?
What do we? Well, obviously, Francis Ngannou, who's got a big boxing fight coming up, and that's all Saudi Arabia.
They do, and that's with Usyk, right?
No, it's with Anthony Joshua.
It's Joshua. What am I saying? What am I saying? That's an interesting man. What do you think, as a big heavyweight yourself? I know you're for Francis because he's your guy. That's an interesting fight, isn't it? What? I mean, I know you don't want to give away any secrets, but I think Francis can win that. But I've heard people say this: if Francis wins, his only way is by stoppage, because probably the technical boxing is going to be in the favor of Joshua. But I was speaking to the legendary cut man, Stitch Duran, my friend, a while back, and he said, you know, he said, I feel like the MMA fighters have a even higher pain threshold than, he said, the standard boxers or kickboxers. And he said, I feel like Francis is used to just leg kicks and other really tremendous pain and is just going to be able to stand in there. And whereas if he puts it on Joshua, that might be too much for Joshua. I don't know. What do you think of that thought, and then the matchup itself?
Yeah, he's not far from being wrong. I think you know, all those points are good points. Excuse
Bless
me.
you. No problem.
Thank you. But you know, like you said, you know, Anthony Joshua has been in there with the best. He's been a champion a very long time. He's going to be the probably the more technical boxer. That being said, I think everybody doubted Francis when he fought against Tyson Fury, and he was able to put Tyson Fury on his backside. Okay, Tyson still got up and won the fight, but the fact that Francis put him on the canvas, everybody thought Francis should have won the fight.
I did too. I know I did.
So
yeah.
Now going into this fight, I don't think people are doubting Francis anymore.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
I think I still look at it as a 50-50 fight because of the experience that Anthony Joshua has had. That being said, Francis is a freak of nature. He's big, he's strong, he can punch. I mean, you know, I used to spar Francis a lot, and so I know what kind of skills and what kind of power he brings. And so I think if Francis lands, it could be you know, good night.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see it because it'd be so great for MMA. And I know Francis is under contract with you guys as well.
Right.
Speaking of PFL, I love a thing, and I know we've only got, I think, 3 minutes left before we've got to cut it, but I love this thing I saw on YouTube, I think a couple of years ago, where Francis lifted Shaq up in the air. Fred, do you remember that, Fred? Because Shaq had touched his stomach and said, oh man, there's no fat in there at all. And Francis ducked under, did a single, and lifted him up in the air. And then when
Right.
Shaq came down, he looked at the camera and said, "Yeah, that's the first time anyone's lifted me up in the air." You know? And Shaq has got to be walking around at what, maybe 375 or something like that,
Yeah,
or
big man.
more.
Yep,
Yeah,
he's a big
and
man.
so yeah, Francis is strong as hell, and I'd love to see that. Well, man, I tell you, so much greatness going on and about to happen with the PFL and Bellator. I'm really excited about it. In the last minute we have, let people know how we can stay up on the PFL, where we can watch it on TV, and how to find out about the upcoming events, and maybe the date when the Saudi Arabia event is. And I appreciate that you let us know. Henan Farrar against Ryan Bader. And that's really good to know. I can't wait to see it. So let us know real quick. You got just 2 minutes left here, where we can find all that and support you and the PFL online.
Yes, PFLMMA.com. Obviously online, all the information that you need, it will be on there. We have the first show, pay-per-view show, which is live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. That's February 24th. So tune in. That's a pay-per-view. And then, of course, the season will start in April. Like I said, all the information for the season, for Bellator, for the pay-per-view cards, that will be on MMA, on PFLMMA.com.
Fantastic. I appreciate it, Ray. Let me keep you with me for just a minute. After we stop recording, I'll sign off, and then I'll catch up with you here real quick. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Sugar Ray Sefo, thank you. I'll catch you in a minute here, and appreciate you guys tuning in. Do not miss PFL and Bellator this year. They are going to be making some serious noise. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll catch you all soon.